everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley if you're new here, and today I'm going to be going over my September TBR. I have a few books that I didn't finish in August that I'm going to be finishing up in September, so I'm going to save those ones for the end just because I've already talked about them a few times. I've said before that my TBRs are more like a guideline than like a strict list of books that I feel like I then need to read. So this is kind of like more of a September hopefuls TBR or like a September guideline TBR, as opposed to like a strict list. So I'm really excited because a lot of these are spooky, mixture of middle grade spooky, regular spooky, kind of like a witchy book, fantasy, and then a few non-really fall or spooky related ones that I'm transferring over from August, and I'll mention those at the end. Without further ado, let's get going. So one of the books that I'm super excited to read is HIIII, and this cover is just magnificent. This one is actually an adult book, and I definitely thought it was YA or even middle grade because all of the characters are animals, and they're like talking animals that live in this town or village called HIIII. I talked about this book in my previous video, I believe, so I'm just going to briefly go over it. We have our main character, Vera Vixen, and she is a journalist, and someone in HIIII ends up dead, and some people think it's murder, so she kind of takes it upon herself to investigate. I've heard really great things about this. Peruse Project here on YouTube and Instagram loved this book, so I'm very excited for this one, and hopefully I can read the second one maybe in October or November. And another one that I've talked about before is Unexpecting, and this one again with the fall cover, it's just so cute. So basically this one says Juno meets Heartstopper, and we have our main character, and he recently came out as gay. However, after like an experiment goes wrong at science camp, he finds out that he is an expecting father. So this one kind of goes through that and, you know, figuring out what's going on and just like his friendships and kind of coming of age. So I'm very excited for this one. And the next one that I'm so excited about is Assistant to the Villain, and this one is so cute. We have our main character Evie, and she kind of, you know, has a family to support, and she finds herself unemployed. She then sees a job posting for the local city's villain that needs an assistant, and so she kind of just becomes his assistant. She also seems to be having a crush on her boss. Then she finds out that someone in the town wants to take the villain out and his whole empire. Someone's sabotaging his work, and she kind of wants to figure out who it is. And the last line of the synopsis says, after all, a good job is hard to find. So she wants to keep her job, so she's trying to figure out like who's sabotaging her boss. It doesn't help that she has a crush on him. And yeah, so this one I'm very excited about. And another one that I actually started, I think 2 days ago, is Horrid. And this one I'm not too far in, but I'm really enjoying it so far. We have our main character Jane, and her mom Ruth moved from LA to Maine because Jane's father died suddenly from a heart attack, and they can't really afford to keep living there. And recently her mom had inherited the manor that she grew up in when her mom dies. So they moved to Maine to like live in this manor to kind of get back on their feet and like see if they can sell it or what's going on. However, then Jane's mom starts acting really strange, and it's this really spooky manor, and she doesn't really know what's going on. And it seems kind of based on the synopsis that maybe there's like some ghosts or some sort of inhabitant in this manor. This one I'm really liking. So the next one I have is like a fantasy witchy one, and it's The Ones We Burn. And this one sounds really good. So this one we have our main character Renka, and she is named next in line to run the coven. However, there's a bunch of like stuff going on with the coven, like bad magic and stuff like that. And so she is sent to marry a prince and to kill him, and basically she's finding out that the prince isn't actually as bad as they think he is. Seems more of the princess that is bad. Some of the witches turn up dead, and so she's kind of just trying to figure out what's going on, who really is the prince and the princess, who's really the bad guy in this situation, and how can she fix it. So yeah, this one I'm very excited about. I've been wanting to read this for quite a while. I have this really cute little middle grade next called The Haunting of Aveline Jones. Aveline loves ghost stories, but then she finds this book that had belonged to someone named Primrose, and Primrose had disappeared years prior, and she kind of wants to figure out what actually happened with Primrose because it's an unsolved case. And I've mentioned this one before, so that's pretty much it. She just kind of wants to figure it out. There is 2 more in this series. I have the sequel, but I didn't read the synopsis because I obviously don't want to know what the synopsis is for the sequel. but that's kind of all it is for this one, and it's pretty short. Okay, so now for the ones that I'm carrying over from August, I have Good Bad Girl by Alice Feeney, and this one I'm 24% of the way through, and I'm really enjoying it. This one so far has like quite a few different points of view, so I'm not very far in. I'm not quite sure what's going on, and the synopsis like is very twisted and kind of convoluted, so it's hard to know what's going on based on the synopsis. Basically, 20 years prior to the present day, a baby was stolen from her stroller, and now exactly 20 years later, a woman has been murdered in her care home. We have our main character, Patience, and she's kind of all over the place. We don't really know what's going on with her. We don't really know if she's a reliable narrator or not. Actually, all of these we don't really know. And some of the points of view become connected, and we don't really know who to believe because it's almost like every person's point of view is not true based on what we're finding out. I think what happens is the three women come together and try and solve these murders, because apparently there's a few more, and that's basically all I know. I'm finding it hard to explain the story, and I am just as equally confused reading it. Based on what I've read so far, I wouldn't recommend this in audio just because it does sound kind of like it would be, at least for me, it would be hard to follow along. Another one that I'm almost done is Do Not Disturb by Frida McFadden, and this one is kind of like her own spin on Psycho with the Bates Motel and all of that. At first I was kind of like suspicious of it just because I have heard some people saying that she kind of like is heavily influenced by others' work, and I was kind of suspicious of it just because I'm like, okay, well this is very clearly the same story, but it is very different now that I'm almost done. Definitely don't just like write it off based on that, which I almost did. Another one is Curious Tides, and I think I'd say I'm like 35% of the way through. This one is a fantasy that comes out in October. It says Ninth House meets A Deadly Education. I haven't read A Deadly Education, but I have read Ninth House and I do love it. So far this one, you know, it's very fantasy. It takes place at like a magical boarding school or university, and it's pretty dark right from the get-go. And it's kind of based on the moon phases, I think, and when you're born, different affinities that people have, stuff like that. And almost right at the beginning, this isn't a spoiler, it's in the synopsis, but quite a few students drown. There's a big mystery behind it. One of the students is our main character's best friend and the sister of another main character that we have. So it's really sad and kind of dark, but I'm really liking it. It's on the longer side at like 550 pages, but I'm enjoying it. And since it is like fantasy dark academia, like, I'm really liking it for the fall. I also am reading The Invisible Hour, and this one, I'd say I have like 45 minutes left in this. I don't love it. I've seen so many people rave about it, and I remember seeing one review that's kind of negative, and that's the only one that I agree with. I'm just not a huge fan of this, and I don't know why. It's like the beginning of the book is all about our main character and how she was like raised in a cult and all this stuff, and then about halfway through it completely changes, and it's just like two books like bound together. It's really weird. I don't really like it, but I'm gonna finish it since I'm so close to finishing, and I am very curious to see how it ends. I am very like pro DNF, but I just am like really wanting to see how this kind of like, I'm very curious to see where Alice Hoffman is going with this. So yeah, I'm gonna see how that one goes. So I also have Rouge by Mona Awad, and this one I really want to read like ASAP. I might start it today or tomorrow, and this one comes out in like a week or two on September 12th. In like true Mona Awad fashion, it's kind of weird, and it says it's like a horror tinted gothic fairy tale. Our main character, her mom suddenly dies and she kind of goes down a spiral. She's always been obsessed with like skincare and like watching skincare videos. Then like a bunch of weird stuff happens. I don't really want to read the synopsis too much just because so far what I did read in the synopsis is like very odd. I kind of really want to go in just knowing that. I'm really looking forward to that one. Okay, so of course my battery dies when I'm like right at the end, but that's all I'm really gonna put for my September TBR. I probably will sprinkle some thrillers and some other books that I really need to get to throughout the month, so I will be including those. That's pretty much it for my September TBR. Please let me know if you've read any of these and what your thoughts are, or if you have also put them on your TBR. And if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye!